Welcome to NASCAR on NBC. I'm Steve Letarte, joined by Jeff Burton. Jeff, William Byron gets his second win of the year down in Circuit of the Americas. But before we talk race winner, let's talk post-race confrontations. Bell, Kyle Busch. What did you make of this other than Kyle Busch is mad?
Yeah, Kyle Busch is mad. And, I think he has some reason to be mad. It was a racing incident. He came out on the short end of the stick. Clearly, he's expressing to Bell, hey, look, I've never wrecked you. You've wrecked me multiple times. I'm not going to put up with it anymore. And, this is coming on the heels of a tough time, really, for the 8 car and Busch. They just haven't been running the way they want to run. And then when you are having a good race, for this to happen, he's just mad. I see how it happens. I don't think Bell went in there and just said, I'm going to wreck you. He thought that Busch was going to stay high on the corner exit. He didn't think he was going to turn that sharp. He thought there was an opening, so he drove it in there. But Kyle Busch was like, hey, man, where'd you think I was going to go? These things happen when you race, Steve. We've been doing this for a long time. This won't be the last post-race conversation these two have either.
We're printing shirts, Jeff, and I'm taking your quote, racing happens. And that was racing. Look, if you're Kyle Busch, you should be pissed. You got run over. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? He was trying to cross over. Christopher Bell didn't mean to wreck him, but the fact is he did. And it was Christopher Bell's fault. And if you look at the body language of the disagreement, that's what I see. Bell not really defending himself. At some point, you know that you're at the wrong, and you just have to take a little bit of a yelling from Kyle Busch. The interesting thing, the one part you can pick up as he walks away is you got one coming. So simple question, is it all talk, or do you think Kyle Busch takes a shot when he gets one?
I don't think Kyle Busch is talk. I think Kyle Busch does what he says he's going to do. I think Kyle was mad, and we'll see how he handles it. Christopher also has a conversation he's going to have with Kyle Larson. And, he got in Kyle Larson also. So a fast day for Christopher, but not without some incidents that he's going to have to deal with.
Not without incidents, but I do want to talk about Bell because that leads us right to the race winner, William Byron. In my mind, this was really a battle between the two young superstars, right? You had William Byron, the pole sitter, on a 3-stop strategy, Christopher Bell on an alternate 2-stop strategy. This was fabulous racing in my mind. It really came down to poor execution, in my opinion, on the 20. He had a 19-second first pit stop. I know that was way back at lap 25, and you don't think about it, but that cost him 4 or 5 positions on the racetrack. And if you look at these closing laps, Jeff, he wishes he could have got back those handful of seconds he lost. But I love the battle between the 24 and the 20.
Oh, it's so much fun to watch these guys go at it. And Christopher Bell is just laying on the edge, trying to run him down with only a few laps left. And William Byron doing William things. William is just so good at making lap time and not making mistakes. That's really, when you think about William Byron, that's what you think about. And as he's matured as a race car driver, he's only gotten better at that. His decision-making, his confidence, all those things have improved. So what Christopher needed was a small mistake by William, and William didn't give it to him. Christopher was fast enough. Just, you miss a corner, Steve, and there's a second, boom, and then Christopher's there. But William wasn't going to make that mistake, and that's what makes him. That's what made him last year a championship contender, and that's what will make him a championship contender this year.
Let's focus on William Byron specifically. You know me, I love some numbers. In the last 10 seasons, the first driver to 2 wins has made the championship for 9 of 10 years. I don't see anything slowing this 24 down. We talk about the great battle, but in the end, I think there's times in sports where you have to tip your hat to the winner, tip your hat to the great performance, not talk about how somebody lost it, but perhaps how somebody won it. And really, the 24 team with that young man behind the wheel was exquisite from Saturday morning to Sunday night. Every pit stop, every strategy call. There were 100 ways to lose this race. The battle with Ross Chastain could have easily gotten sideways. William Byron tiptoed his way by, took his time. I don't see anything with the 24 slowing down. The question, I guess, is, Jeff, is this the new level the 24 can operate at? Or is there such a thing as peaking too soon in a 36-week schedule?
This is the continuation of last year. Like, if you think about the 24 last year, I mean, they were in many people's eyes with a championship favorite. Like, they had speed every week. They brought that into this year. And that, to me, is what makes them very dangerous is they have speed. They have the ability to do all the things you just talked about in this race. They have the ability to do that throughout the entire season. They got beaten and they didn't win a championship last year because in one race they didn't have the speed. Well, that just made them that much hungrier. That made them appreciate it that much more. That lesson that they learned, they'll bring into the next playoff. And so, Jack Roush used to tell me all the time when we would have a problem, he'd say that was the down payment on future success. And to me, I think that's what last year was about. Is that the 24 car, they put a down payment down on a future championship. They have the ability. It's just putting all the pieces together on that one Sunday, Steve, having everything, do everything right on that one Sunday in Phoenix. This team, I can't imagine, won't have the chance multiple years in the future to win that race, to win a championship. And I think ultimately they'll get it done.
Well, if William Byron is putting a down payment on a championship, another driver I think is putting some pennies in the piggy bank on a win, and that's the 54 of Ty Gibbs. All year long, he's been good. He's been fast. He's been consistent. But what I saw this week was a little bit of maturity, which is what I was looking for out of Ty Gibbs. There are a lot of people out there that feel like he should have pulled over for the 20 a lap sooner, as soon as Bell got there. I totally disagree. In my opinion, when you're second, let it play out a lap or two. You never know. William Byron run out of gas, miss a corner, track limits could have got him. Anything could have happened. But then after one lap of battling, right here, the 54 just kind of concedes. He lets the 20 by when he finally gets in position. I think that's very different for the driver of the 54. I think this battle could have lasted longer. I liked what I saw of the 54. Zero down in my mind. He goes to victory lane later or at some point this year. Do you agree or disagree with his timing with his teammate in the 20?
I don't think he should have ever let him by. I think that he made the right decision. Don't get me wrong. I think that ultimately, clearly the 20 was faster. Clearly, he got position, and you can see, the 54 car started moving around a lot. He just didn't have the grip that was needed. He recognized that. I'm not going to hold this guy up any longer. And he didn't do that, in my opinion, so Christopher could win the race. He did that so he could finish third instead of 20th, right? And that's the decision. I don't want any teammate to pull over so somebody else has a better chance to win the race. What if William Byron went off course? What if William Byron had a mechanical? What if, right? You want to be in that position. But right there, you can see the 54 car, he just doesn't have the grip. And so he conceded. So, yes, I think that's mature. It's a smart move. And I want to say this, too, about Gibbs. I think all of us in this industry, we judge Gibbs on his Xfinity racing. His Cup driving and his Xfinity driving are two completely different things. He was in the middle of chaos in Xfinity. He didn't care. He just didn't care. He just did whatever he wanted to do. But for the most part in Cup, we haven't seen that. He's been much more mature. He's raced very, very smartly. Has he made mistakes? Yeah, he's made mistakes. Guess what? He's a young race car driver trying to earn his way. He deserves some mistakes. He's given some mistakes as a young driver. It's okay. So I think he's done an incredible job. And I think there's times we just judge him based on his bad moments in the Xfinity series rather than recognizing how many good moments he's had in Cup.
We've talked the stars. Let's talk the track. Circuit of the Americas now have been around for a few years. It splashed on the scene literally underwater with that first rain race. Now we've seen it in the dry with the next-gen car. The only two yellows were stage breaks. And we also saw what is consistent at Circuit of the Americas, track limits coming into conversation. F1 struggles with this. Anyone who raced there, the way the track is laid out, specifically the S's, they have to be enforced somehow with either curbing or officiating. NASCAR chose officiating, which I liked. It caught the 9 out. Did any of that surprise you with what you expected heading down to Austin?
Not really, Steve. NASCAR made an investment, a pretty big investment in cameras. Not much of a great camera needed to be seen on that one, right? And you have to have some sort of track limits. If you don't, then why have curbs? Why have a racetrack? You just go wherever you want to go. And there has to be track limits. You said it very well. Every series struggles with this. The only other option is to put bigger curbs that cause a penalty for the driver, but more so the car. Damage the car and or make the car drive so bad when it hits the curbs that, you have a problem. And maybe that's in the future of COTA. Maybe that is an answer. But remember the curbs at Indy? Yeah, remember the issue calls? Remember how many times? So it's a fine line between having a curbs that cause a small penalty versus having curbs that do massive damage. That's a fine line. As far as the racetrack, it's a fun racetrack. You up the S's, there's a lot of braking zones, there's an opportunity to pass. It's a fun racetrack. Really no cautions other than stage in the Cup race. There's only 2 cautions other than stage breaks in the Xfinity Series. So we can talk about tracks. We can talk about that. But what I really think we need to do is recognize how much better the drivers have gotten at road course racing. There's no doubt that because there is so much more road racing, and that's been going on in Xfinity for several years. And look at the young drivers that are coming in. Many of those drivers have road course experience. So the road course talent has gotten better. That's part of why we're seeing less cautions. The chaos in turn 1, Steve, that's gone away on restarts. It's much better. I'm a fan of that. I think it was embarrassing what we were doing before. All that stuff going on in turn 1 was that was not good. That wasn't good racing. And so, clearly we're having incidences, but why throw a caution for this? In the past, NASCAR might have thrown a caution for this. That is one thing that has changed. They're holding that caution way more. If these guys can get going and there's nobody behind them and there's not going to be an incident, let them race. NASCAR could throw these cautions if they wanted to, but in my mind, I don't see why they should.
I totally agree. I think a yellow should be either because the track is not ready to race on or a driver needs assistance. I didn't see any of that. I'm okay with the organic style of racing that we saw with only the stage breaks. For track limits, I'm okay with that. The only thing I would add is I don't love the penalty. I don't love the pass-through. I actually am a fan of the old Marcus Smith penalty box right there in front of the grandstands at the Roval. You can kind of pull over and serve your penalty instead of coming all the way down pit road. And I know why it's done. It's easier to officiate timing and scoring. Like, I get all of that. But I feel like the overall penalty could be in question, right? Because Chase Elliott clearly cuts the course. Tires to the right of that yellow or that white line on the blue. That's shortcutting the S's. Coming down pit road's fine. Maybe a penalty box. Play it up. Sell some naming rights to it. Make them stop there right in front of the fans. Add a little bit more of a show. But either way, COTA was a good show. I do enjoy the racetrack. The show's going to continue, though. Sunday night, 7 o'clock. Easter Sunday, short track racing. I guarantee a couple things. Strategy will matter, and drivers will still be mad at each other after the 3/4-mile action track up at Richmond. Jeff and I will be back on Monday to break down short track racing Sunday night.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.